to the table and she was making a ceramic kangaroo out of clay or whatever ceramic people do. My son sat down beside her and he said, "What's that? What are you making that for? How come it's white? Kangaroos aren't white." I started to feel the heat coming off her body. And then he said, "What are you going to do with it?" She said, "Well, I'm going to put it in my garden." My son said, "What are you going to put a kangaroo in the garden for, or just eat the plants? Why don't you do what my daddy does? He grows vegetables and flowers." With that, the heat was nearly melting my arm, and my sister-in-law stormed to her feet, bumping the table and sending the kangaroo flying smashed. And of course, it was my son's fault. So I gathered up my son, grabbed my stubby, waved my brother goodbye. It took him some time to clean up the mess, about 4.5 years. Ladies and gentlemen, my son now, just the other day, he turned 30, and he ducked across to New York to celebrate his birthday. Not from here, but from London, where he's now working for a company called AG Consulting. Anybody get it? It's his own company, Aaron Gibbs. And he subcontracts to PricewaterhouseCoopers, one of the biggest legal and accounting firms in the world. He's now paying more tax in a week than I earn in about 6 months. But that's not the point. My point, folks, is why is it that he's up there where he is now? Don't challenge him to Trivial Pursuit. I can assure you you'll lose. But he's a magnificent young man, very smart. And why is it? Is it because of those 19 years from preschool right through to finishing university in Copenhagen? Or was it all of those questions? Well, I think it was obviously a mixture, wasn't it? But the questions certainly played a big part. Not just the questions, but the answers as well. The answers that were used to raise him up, to invigorate him, to get him to where he is today. Just a few months ago, I had a very sad day. I had to go to the funeral of a fellow Toastmaster, Robert Dangerfield. Robert joined Toastmasters just a couple of months before I did. No, I mean after I did, actually. He became a very good friend and a mentor to me. He's a brilliant man. He was a counsellor. He'd done psychological, that sort of studies, and I always looked up to him. Robert had this great ability to ask questions and then spew forth fantastic advice for you. Just before Robert died, I went over to Russell Island where he and his wife Trish were building a home. Robert came down in his little Toyota Yaris and he squeezed himself out of the door. Then I squeezed myself into the other door, and then we went for a drive around the island and he gave me a good tour. And as we were driving, he came up with all these questions, which he always did. "Ted, how's your business going? Have you made $1 million yet? Ted, how's your love life? What's going on there? Ted, how's your heart? Ted, what's going on with your family?" And then when we got back to Robert's house, we had lunch, and then we sat down in the lounge. And I knew what was about to happen. I knew that Robert was about to pour forth, basically like this great cooked meal that he prepared in his mind, and give me all the advice and the feedback that was going to raise me up, as I said before. He said, "Ted, I think you should go on a cruise, have a rest the heart. Don't worry about the business for a while." He said, "And as for your love life, well, I suggest you tell the women what a great cook you are. Tell them about those stir fries you make. Just don't mention the ingredients or out-of-date products." Then Robert took me back down and I jumped on the ferry and went away. And sadly, as I've already mentioned, 2 months later he passed away. On the day of Robert's funeral, I arrived at the chapel and I walked into the building, and he was obviously in his casket there, the centre of attraction. And there was lots of people, all dressed in their suits and ties and beautiful dresses. And I thought to myself, well, there's not much chance of me getting a chance to speak here. There's too many other people. They'll all want to say something. When the time came and the preacher said, "Would anybody like to come forward and say a few words?" Nobody moved a muscle. I was amazed. What's wrong with these people? I knew they must have wanted to, but I got up and moved forward. And I stood there, and as I walked up, I realised that I had to say something of value. So I pretty much said what I've already said tonight. The way Robert always, when he met people, he asked them questions. Not just to pry or to stick his nose in or to find something that he could plaster on Facebook, but so that he could use that information and then throw it back to raise people up, to make them better people, to make it a better country even, you might say. As I drove home, I was pretty proud of the fact that I'd actually made the effort and got up and said something. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you'll consider the questions you ask, and consider asking questions that will raise people up, that will lift up their intelligence level, make them greater people, make greater organisations such as this club. And when the day comes that maybe you're laying in that casket, as we all will someday, we can all look back and be very proud of the fact that during our life we did that. We lifted people up, we made them better, we made it a better country. And thus, we'll all be able to rest in peace.